I'm outraged for Nancy Pelosi. This woman has taken the hard-earned money she's made from insider trading and invested in a pair of cans at 82 years old and comes home to find out that her husband's playing hide the hammer with a Black Lives Matter guy?
All right, guys, so once again, we got to talk about the Paul Pelosi situation. As all of you should be aware, that NBC retracted their bombshell report that essentially contradicts the FBI's affidavit and their version of what happened, specifically when the police opened the door to Paul Pelosi's residence. Now, NBC News reported that Paul Pelosi is the person that actually opened the door. And when he opened the door, he did not indicate to police that he was in any type of danger. In fact, he walked back several feet to the attacker, David DePape, or David DePap, whatever you want to call it. I'm not necessarily sure how to pronounce his name. But he actually walked back towards his alleged attacker before being hit in the head by the attacker. Now, NBC pulling down this report, retracting this report, really just confirms one thing, which is that their report was true. Okay, it is a contradiction to the mainstream liberal narrative that the Democrat Party, most likely led by Nancy Pelosi, want us to believe about what happened in this situation. So, of course, this has sparked more questions and theories about what actually happened. And we all know that the mainstream liberal media, they don't like that, right? That scares them to death, actually asking questions. And they freaked out when Elon Musk just simply said that, look, there might be more than this than what meets the eye. And because of their reaction to Elon Musk, I can only imagine how much they're going to melt down over this theory that is being presented by Jason Whitlock on Tucker Carlson's show. That, again, I think that the mainstream liberal media is going to have an absolute meltdown over. But again, I think it's worth asking questions about. Take a look.
Much for coming on. They're clearly lying. Like, what is this?
I got to set the record straight. I'm with the Blaze. I got a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Jason Whitlock, not Outkick. But Tucker, listen.
Yeah.
I'm not upset with NBC. I have no expectations for them as a journalist. What I really have to stand up and defend, I'm outraged for Nancy Pelosi. This woman has taken the hard-earned money she's made from insider trading and invested in a pair of cans at 82 years old and comes home to find out that her husband's playing hide the hammer with a Black Lives Matter guy? You talk about disrupting the nuclear family. The Black Lives Matter crew must be ecstatic because this guy's doing it, and so is Paul Pelosi. I'm upset for Nancy. She spent her hard-earned money on a pair of cans, and he's not interested.
Well, of course we can't confirm or deny your suggestion, but I must say I did notice that the second people started speculating about what might have really happened, which we are not doing and haven't done, but some have, because in the absence of the body cam video, why wouldn't they? I saw these liberals on Twitter saying it's disgusting that you would suggest there was anything alternative going on. I thought they were defenders of the alternative. When did that become immoral in the eyes of the Democratic Party?
Tucker, I don't want to put you in a tough spot, but I got to correct you again. Are you suggesting that my information that she spent her money on a pair of cans, are you saying that's bad information? I've seen a lot of evidence. I feel real comfortable. She's trying to entice her husband, but he's interested in playing hide the hammer on a Friday night with some weirdo. I think there's an issue. This is what needs to be investigated. This is the whole end game for Black Lives Matter. Disrupting the nuclear family. Start with the Speaker of the House.
Jason Whitlock of the Blaze. Thank you so much. Great to see you tonight. Well,
now, obviously, again, I can neither confirm nor deny that Whitlock's theory is true here, okay? But I do think it's interesting that, a BLM activist, which it seems like this guy was, there's more evidence to suggest he was a BLM activist than a Trump supporter, right? Evidence that we actually have that you can actually see, right? We're going to get into that. But, yeah, I mean, the idea that this guy was a BLM activist trying to disrupt the nuclear family. I mean, hey, what can I say? I don't know if they were playing hide the PP or not. I'm just saying that what NBC put out, okay, is not necessarily even in contradiction to what the FBI affidavit says. Is actually more details that to me seem to be purposely left out. So let's actually read directly from the document here and try to piece together why in the world did NBC feel like this did not meet their journalistic integrity standards or whatever they cited, right? Let's actually read this. It says, these are the events. On October 28th at 2:30 a.m., San Francisco Dispatch received a 911 call from Paul Pelosi, located at the Pelosi residence in San Francisco, California. Pelosi stated words to the effect of, there is a male in the home and that the male is going to wait for Pelosi's wife. Pelosi further conveyed that he does not know who the male is. The male said his name is David. Okay, but he also said that the male was a friend. Why is that left out of the FBI report? Okay, I mean, he clearly said that on the 911 call, which should be released, but they won't release that. Just like they won't release the body cam footage or the security camera footage. But again, we know from a snippet of the 911 call that he said that Pelosi was his friend. Again, why is it that it's only things in here that are supporting a certain narrative, which is that, well, Paul Pelosi didn't know this guy. But let's read more here. It says, at 2:31 a.m., San Francisco Police Department officers Kobe Wilmes responded to the Pelosi residence, California, and knocked on the door. When the door was opened, Pelosi and DePape were both holding a hammer with one hand, and DePape had his other hand holding onto Pelosi's forearms. Pelosi greeted the officer. So again, it's not necessarily that NBC contradicted what is in this affidavit. It's more that they added information that was not in the affidavit. Okay, now apparently NBC got this information from their own sources, okay, that they thought were credible enough to run the segment in the first place. It seems to me that after the segment was ran, the executive said, you know, this don't sound the way that I think the Pelosi's and the Democrats want this to sound, right? This is going to sound a lot different than the official narrative that we're trying to put out there. Because again, if you read here, it doesn't say who opened the door. It just says Pelosi greeted the officers. Now, what does that mean? We don't know. Okay, did the officers open the door and Pelosi and DePape were there struggling with the hammer? Right? Or did Pelosi open the door and DePape was behind Pelosi or near Pelosi? Maybe DePape was holding the Pelosi or whatever. We don't know. Did Pelosi open the door? And basically, as he opened the door, he kind of walked back towards DePape, because if you open the door from the inside, you're going to have to take steps back in order to actually open the door. Is that what it meant? I don't know. It's not clearly described in the FBI report in regards to the nature of what actually happened. What was going on? Like, what actually happened? Who opened the door? And how far away was DePape from Pelosi when he opened the door? Again, these are details we're not getting. These are details that NBC put out there, though. Right? He said that Pelosi walked back several feet. You don't need to walk back several feet to open the door, right? So to me, it suggests that DePape was not holding on to Paul Pelosi, right? Initially, okay, he wasn't holding on to Pelosi. That Pelosi went and answered the door by herself. And then after he answered the door, for whatever mysterious reason, he walked back several feet towards his attacker, right? The guy that broke into the house. So, again, I really don't know, okay? I really don't know. But it sounds to me like, based off what we're getting here in the official report in NBC, that there's a cover-up going on here. That they're purposely not putting any information in here that can make us question the official narrative, right? It also goes on to say, the officers asked them what was going on. DePape responded that everything was good. Officers then asked Pelosi and DePape to drop the hammer. DePape pulled the hammer from Pelosi's hand and swung the hammer, striking Pelosi in the head. Officers immediately went inside and were able to restrain DePape. While officers were restraining DePape, Pelosi appeared to be unconscious on the ground. Officers removed a cell phone, cash, clipper cards, and an unidentified card from DePape's right shorts pocket. Okay, so here's the thing. This is not the first time that a report from one of these media outlets has been retracted that, again, mysteriously doesn't go along with the left-wing agenda. You guys remember the report about Pelosi or DePape being in their underwear when police arrived? That came from a local news outlet. A local news outlet got information that is what happened, and they reported it. They were confident enough in their source that they reported it. Once that came out and the mainstream liberal media started running with that, and that was used as a way to contradict the mainstream liberal narrative, which is that, oh, this was some type of flaming Trump supporter, right? All of a sudden, they mysteriously retracted it, right? It went away. It was like, oh, well, that's not actually true. So again, it seems like every single time there's a detail that comes out that goes against the mainstream narrative, it magically disappears. The news outlets magically just retract it. Also, on top of that, I have searched for the alleged conspiracy theories and blogs that were written by David Papape, which again is interesting because the mainstream media, people like the Washington Post, want to tell you, look, we read over all this stuff and we're going to tell you exactly what it says. It said this, and this. Therefore, this guy was a Trump supporter. He was MAGA, right? This is what they're saying. But all these documents have been struck from the internet. The archives that you can find are highly censored. You can't really take away any conclusions from those documents. And the things that we do have all suggest, like the actual real official records that you can check, like, you know, the party that he was registered to vote, like the Green Party, far left, his associations at his house, Black Lives Matter, the LGBTQ flag, far left, right? So all the things that we actually can verify are far left. The things that we can't verify, that the mainstream liberal media is telling us to believe, oh, well, he's far right. Again, it's interesting how that works. I've tried to find this stuff. If this guy is a MAGA supporter, if he's such a big Trump supporter, and you know for sure that's the case, and you don't want conspiracies floating around, just show it. Show us the blogs. Show us the website. Don't censor it. Don't take it down. Keep it up. Show us. But they're not going to. The same way that we're not going to see the body cam footage. We're not going to see the security footage. We're not going to get the whole 911 call because it's going to go against the narrative. And the whole point of my video here, guys, is this. These people that want to complain about the so-called dangerous conspiracies that people are formulating, right? People like Jason Whitlock. Well, the mainstream liberal media, you're responsible. Because it is clear that you're trying to cover something up. It is the lack of transparency, which is what drives people to formulate alternative theories in regards to what happened. That is what is the main cause, is when you're not transparent. If you release the body cam footage, if you keep up all the things that this man said on Facebook, on his blogs, all things he allegedly said, that is absolute proof that he's a Trump supporter. If things happen the way that you claim that it happened, release all the evidence. Because transparency is the best way to stop the so-called dangerous conspiracies, right? Again, I think that Paul Pelosi was attacked. I believe he was attacked. And it is clearly a bad situation. It's not something that anybody should condone, okay, or support. It is bad, right? It must be condemned, that type of political violence. However, I got questions about what happened leading up to that attack. One, in regards to whether or not the attacker was actually a Trump supporter or he had MAGA beliefs, right? Whatever you want to call that. And two, the nature of the relationship between Paul Pelosi and this guy. I'm just saying, I got questions about those things. I got a feeling that those two things are probably going to fall apart, which is why after the midterms, you're never going to hear about this. There's a chance this guy could be deported back to Canada and you will never hear this man's name again. He's going to be deported back to Canada because he's here illegally and you will never hear from him again. Which again is funny, when the mainstream media, when they talk about this guy, they never talk about, well, this guy's an illegal immigrant. It's this time to have a conversation about how illegal immigrants coming into this country, undocumented, we don't know who they are. We don't know their mental state. We don't know what they could do. right, in regards to harming Americans, yeah, it's time to have that conversation. They don't want to have that conversation. They don't even mention it. That's not an irrelevant detail. That's actually a very important detail, that he's living here illegally. And he attacked the spouse of a sitting politician, the Speaker of the House. Why won't the mainstream liberal media mention his illegal status? Because it doesn't fit the narrative. It doesn't fit the Democrat narrative. Again, this whole story is about crafting a narrative that was immediately politicized, despite the lack of facts and evidence to support the narrative that was pushed from the mainstream liberal media. And now they're scrambling as it falls apart. And it's glorious. And the only reason that this story is now important, right, is not that it's going to affect the outcomes of the midterms. Nobody's voting based off Paul Pelosi. It's important to follow because we need transparency. Because they're trying to blame Trump supporters for this. So we need to follow through and see, okay, is this actually what happened? Is that who this guy actually is? Is what the mainstream liberal media told us from the get-go that was true? Is it actually true? Because if it's not true, this is just another example of the mainstream liberal media lying to us instead of presenting the facts. This is another reason why they cannot be trusted. This is another blow to the little credibility that they have, if any. So again, the only reason why this Paul Pelosi story is important now moving forward is to see whether or not the mainstream liberal media lied to us from the beginning. And if they lied, again, it's just another example of why you cannot trust them. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.